Hey girls, happy Sunday afternoon. I'm recovering much better than I was. I had a rough couple days. And I've got this little kitty here and a quiet house for a minute. And somebody asked me a really amazing question. And I wanted to make a video out of it because it's a commonly asked question and it's heavy. So I thought if I made her a video and shared with all of you, then a lot of people can benefit from this and you can kind of start a chat going. So she reached out to me. So there's going to be an extreme kind of sense of urgency to this for the people like her who are feeling really extreme on this issue. And then we're going to have a lot of you girls who just are folding and tapping, kind of getting familiar with it, maybe have tapped for a really, really long time. Maybe my personal clients who we haven't been able to meet for the last couple weeks. And so you're wanting to tap on your own a little bit more often and just maybe feel like you're kind of flailing without me. So she reached out. She said, I don't think she's ever tapped before. She said she's feeling really anxious, maybe some panic attacks, suicidal thoughts. So this is really heavy. And tapping really truly is an incredible solution for these heavy things. I wish that she could tap privately one-on-one with somebody right now, but what she's doing is she's deciding to just try and give it her best to just tap in her private time, which is the very best thing that a lot of you can do. I had somebody else recently say that she's always wanted to try tapping, but maybe she feels like it's for later in her life, and that's okay. Here's the thing though, tapping really helps to support and undergird every single effort that you're making in your life for self-help, self-care, books you're reading, tasks that you're trying to check off your list. Tapping is such an incredible thing because what it's really doing is lowering cortisol inside your body on a physical level so that the blood can go to your brain so you can think clearly. There's so many things in our life that we see or that we hear or that what we're one of our senses is picking up that has to do with an old trauma or an old trigger that we're not aware of in our cognitive brain. And so we go through life feeling a lot of anxiety or stress unnecessarily. So the deep work of tapping really helps to resolve a lot of that. So with this gal who's dealing with a lot of heavy stuff, I would really want her to be working one-on-one with somebody. And she knows that, and she knows that I can be here for her when I recover. But I'm so proud of her because instead of waiting and putting it off, she's just diving in and just trying tapping. So she's going to want to keep it really general. All right. And what I mean by that is really just focusing on fear as a feeling, maybe anxiety as a feeling, and just practicing getting some momentum with breathing. Practice getting familiar with all the tapping points and just acknowledging that there's a lot of really overwhelming fear, a lot of anxiety, and really not trying to solve the problem. What you're doing is we're actually teaching your body how to respond different physically, okay, and viscerally when you have an anxious thought. So what she's going to want to do is just breathe, tap, and just acknowledge that there's a lot of fear going on in her right now and anxiety, but also to be anchoring in that she is safe right here in this exact moment. And what that does is it really just helps to regulate her system because so many of those fears and anxieties, if I were to get to sit with her privately, or I could ask her to fill me in a little bit, I would probably find out there's a lot of fear in her childhood. The reason I don't ask people for detailed information like this on their fears over text or DM is because I really truly believe the way that the subconscious works is that it does not know if you're actually talking about an old threat from when you were 6 years old or 17 years old, or merely experiencing it for the first time. I think I said that right. Sorry, my brain's a little foggy. So let's say you had this event when you were 6 years old and it was super severely traumatic. Okay, and if you go in and you start talking to a friend about it, if it's not healed properly, when you're talking to somebody about it, your brain literally does not know if it's happening all over again or if you're just recalling it. So the first thing we're doing with tapping, when we're tapping on the side of the hand, so this part of the hand right here, is we're really saying, hey, even though there's this fear, even though maybe it's related to something old that I'm not thinking about right now, right here in this moment on this super cozy couch, okay, I am anchored into safety in this moment. So that's always the first part of tapping. If that's all you do is get through that first part, tapping on the side of your hand, even though there's this overwhelming fear in my life. Another aspect for her is that she's resistant to believing that tapping can work. That's a huge one. Very common, very normal. Tapping looks weird. Okay. And there's a lot of people, well, if it worked really well, I'd hear about it. Yeah. If people made a ton of money off of it and could sell you some pills. But the thing is, it's getting people off their pills. And it's a very natural, holistic approach that's available to you in your own home without scheduling with somebody and paying them. So sorry, but it works really well. And that's why you may not hear people talk about it. Another reason you don't hear as many people is because they get well and they move on with their life. People like me got so well and were so excited that I made a career out of it and wanted to help other women. So that's how a lot of my girls hear about it, is through me or somebody who I helped. So what she's going to want to do is she's just going to want to get familiar with tapping on the side of her hand and saying, even though I feel this resistance in my body, this seems really weird, but I have so much fear right now. I just need some relief, but I'm just going to remind myself that I'm safe in this present moment. Okay. And she's going to want to just go through that and just be practicing the breathing and practicing the tapping points. That's it. Okay. So let's talk about, so for her, I'm assuming she has some really big traumas. Most girls do, especially if she hasn't ever done any deep work. All right. So I'm not going to have her go into these like crazy details of childhood. It's just not necessarily going to be safe for her. But what she did say was, I keep trying to tap on the fears and I have all these negative memories popping up. That's actually good. Okay. That means that she did enough tapping to tell her brain that those things aren't happening right now and it's safe to refile them. Okay. So that's one reason why people think tapping is so negative. And they stay away from it because they're afraid they're going to manifest something negative. We're not used to being told to focus on the negative. So with tapping, what we're doing is we're acknowledging the negative, we're acknowledging the uncomfortable. It's there anyway. Everyone has fears. It's already there. It's just that society tells us not to focus on it or it'll grow. That can be true when you're just talking to a therapist about it, or talking to a spouse about it, or talking to a friend about it if it hasn't been filed properly. But when things haven't been filed properly and you're tapping on them, then they're able to be refiled properly. The tapping is crucial to the processing. It really pulls an event from a trauma file and place it in a safety file. So part of what's going on for her is society has told her not to focus on the negative. Okay. And so when she's tapping, she has these negative experiences and these negative emotions popping up, which is actually an indication that her work is working. Okay. That it's actually telling her subconscious, hey, I'm so safe right now that you're allowed to release information to me that you've actually blocked from my memory in order to protect me. And now I'm so safe. I'm able to look at it, feel it, process it, and refile it. So to her, I would say, when those uncomfortable or hard things pop up, just hold them. Just go, you know what? I'm noticing this, I'm feeling it, and that's all I have to do. And so just breathe through it, keep tapping, keep breathing. It's there anyway. We don't realize how much of a hold these hard things have on us until they come up and cause so much emotion. And that's why we want to push them back down or set them aside, is so we don't know what to do with this big amount of emotion, especially when it's attached to abuse in your past. Okay, 75% of the women I work with have sexual abuse as a child. So our brain is saying, I don't want you to remember it. I don't want you to go there. With tapping, we're saying, hey, you know what? It happened anyway. I already know it happened. Let me just do one last wave of feeling these feelings and let's get them filed properly. Okay. So for her, I would just say, if the feelings pop up, that's good news. Okay. Maybe you don't want to sit and think about them too long. Maybe you're not ready to do that. Maybe you don't have enough privacy in your home to do that. Get a piece of paper and a pen. And when one of those feelings comes up or a memory, write it down. Okay. And what you're doing then is, instead of shoving it down or ignoring it, you're just saying, hey, listen, this came up and I'm going to acknowledge it and I'm going to write it right here. And your next tapping thing can be, hey, even though that memory came up when I was 6 years old, or this feeling that came up that's really uncomfortable, I don't really know how to sort it out right now. It feels too big for me. I'm going to go ahead and love myself right now by just writing it down, just getting it out of my head, getting it down on paper. And when it feels really safe to, I'm going to come back to this. And so you're really just constantly tapping on these thoughts, is what we're really doing, is tapping on our thoughts. So with her, I want her to keep it pretty general. Life is really scary right now. lots of anxiety. I'm just going to work on breathing. I'm just going to work on tapping. I'm going to work on noticing what I notice. Never walk away when something is heightened. When things feel heightened, that means they're actually being filed from trauma to safety. So you do want to ride that wave if you feel brave enough and see it through. Now, with big trauma, she could have a lot of things that pop up after that, and she just doesn't want to deal with that alone. I wouldn't want to either. When I'm going through really heavy stuff in life, I reach out to one of my practitioners. There is no reason for you to sit in these really hard, really uncomfortable, really painful things alone. It's just not necessary. You're the only one who can do the work for you, but you certainly don't have to do it alone. So someone with big trauma is practicing for the first time, just practice breathing, practice tapping, tell your body it's safe, and write things down as they come. You're already doing so much more work in the background than you could even imagine. So let's move over to people who've been tapping for a while. Maybe some of my girls who are in my private group, and a lot of them have done their one-on-one work. Okay, they've done a lot of really intense trauma work, and now our weekly tapping group, they're doing kind of some, I want to say kind of surface, like week to week stuff, but really they go pretty deep still. Or maybe you're a client and we haven't been meeting because of the break I'm taking, and you want to be tapping on your own. So in that case, according to this question that was posed, what do I do when things feel really negative and pop up and I feel this resistance? For those of you who have done a ton of work, you know, ride the wave, let it pop up. Anything now that's left for you after a lot of work that's coming up and feeling heavy, one, you already know what happens when we focus on the negative, right? So the negative causes you to give attention to it, give attention to it, give attention to it, and then it finally releases. And what happens is you find a neutral place, and if you keep going, you'll actually find something really good and true and beautiful about what you tapped through. It happens almost every time. And then the other piece of it, for people who have tapped for a long time, done a lot of practice, you don't really need to be afraid of a lot of things popping up, because you're not going to have as big of traumas popping up, as big of memories popping up, because you've done so much of your deep work. So you guys can just kind of let those come up. And as you feel them, you just are going to keep tapping, keep breathing. I don't know what this means, but I'm here to just ride this wave. I trust myself. I trust my body to process this. You know, I'm safe right here in this moment. So let me know if you guys have any questions on this, because the concept of not knowing what to do when something heavy comes up, the concept of a lot of negativity, and also a lot of resistance, those are three really big things. And you know what? I'm glad she mentioned it, because those are three things that keep people from doing this work. But this is the work that actually allows you to kind of be one and done. Like once you tap on the big heavy stuff, it is filed, it is processed, and you really truly get to move forward in freedom. Let me know if you have any questions on this. Please share with your friends. I want tapping into the hands of as many women as possible.